Hello, everybody, and happy Friday. Thanks so much for being here with us today for our Lunch and Learn about building English learners' oral language skills. I'm Emily Sumner, and I'll be your webinar host today. Before we begin, I'm going to review just a few quick tips to help the webinar run smoothly for you. The GoToWebinar platform does not have a group chat, but we do welcome your questions and your feedback. You can send questions in throughout the presentation, and we'll be leaving time at the end for a Q&A, and we'll get through as many as possible. If you locate the questions bar or icon on your control panel, type your question into the box and then click send. I'll receive it and I'll put it into the queue to be answered during the Q&A. If you experience any technical difficulties during the webinar, you can send me a note through that same Q&A feature and I'll do my best to resolve the problem for you. One thing you can do right now is close all of the other applications on your computer, all of your internet browser tabs. So close down Window, close down, again, other tabs you might have open in your internet. When you close those down, that just makes sure all your internet and computer bandwidth are going to power GoToWebinar, and that can help reduce audio and video lags that might happen. If you do have a lag that happens or lasts more than a second or two, you can log out of GoToWebinar and come right back in, and that often resets the connection for you. We are recording today's webinar, so if you're not able to stay for the whole thing or you want to watch it again, share it with colleagues, we encourage you to do that, and we'll be sending you a link to the recording by email tomorrow. The recording will also be posted to the Ballard and Ty website. That email you'll get tomorrow will also include a link to your certificate of attendance, so keep an eye out on your inbox for that information tomorrow afternoon. All right, I think we're ready to get started, so I am pleased to invite Brenda Rosas to join me on screen. Brenda is an educational consultant with Ballard and Ty and is going to be your guide today. Brenda, you ready to get started?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Brenda Rosas, and I actually have a bachelor's in Chinese and a master's in English, teaching English to speakers of other languages. I've spent 15 years teaching secondary EL multi-level classrooms. I was never given a single level class. I actually really enjoy multi-level, and it's one of my passions. I have always had newcomers all the way to the advanced. My hardest year, or my most fun year, however you want to put it, was 5th through 12th grade in one classroom, all different levels. I had to only use English, so that was challenging but also fun. I've also done EL curriculum assessment and development for both of those. And I've actually been doing blended learning since 2009. So what that means is I've taught with technology in the classroom, whether it was just me on technology or my students and I on technology. So when it comes to virtual learning or using technology in the classroom, it's something that I've been doing for a very long time and really do enjoy. So for our agenda today, we are going to talk a lot about oral proficiency practice, maximizing that time of virtual as well as in-person, using oral proficiency sentence frames. We are going to talk about how to use images for vocabulary, to teach vocabulary alongside those images to help students learn vocabulary more at a faster pace. We're going to talk about using images as a springboard for language, the sentence frames, and how that can build fluency and confidence in a I do it, we do it, you do it model. We're going to talk a little bit about not just speaking and listening, but reading, writing, listening, and speaking, but definitely with multi-level classes and how to do that virtual and in person. At Ballard and Ty, our philosophy is a very structured, systematic language development approach. So we believe a lot in language development and language learning. Therefore, we do a lot with explicit vocabulary. We want students to know the vocabulary in a meaningful context, thematic way, so that they are learning vocabulary that they can see and then use in speaking, listening, reading, and writing. We also want to do explicit grammar, forms, and functions. It's not enough to know what past tense means. The function of that is talking about past time, things that happened before. So we want students to know not just about grammar forms, but how to use them, so what function they serve. We also do a lot with social as well as academic language because, as you know, students need both. They have the social time with their students, or their classmates, excuse me, and then that academic language, the language of school. We do it in a very balanced approach of reading, writing, listening, and speaking. So we believe a lot in integrated skills. We talk a lot about speak to write. If you have any time later on, we have webinars that are pre-recorded. We did some speak to write webinars, grammar not in isolation, strategies for a hybrid approach. I really do encourage you to look at those recorded webinars because there are more strategies. But the speak to write one really does have activities for instruction that will get students really interactive and wanting to practice vocabulary, grammar, form, and function. And we also believe, again, a lot in sentence frames, and that's going to be a lot of what we're going to cover today. You don't have to have already made sentence frames. Sentence frames you can make on your own. You can, find a way to integrate it into the lessons you're using. But sentence frames work for any language because you are basically building a grammatical structure and being able to then plop in vocabulary. You can have them extend the language frame into a more compound or complex sentence. But all of this is really great during the time of virtual and, of course, in-person learning. But during virtual, you can do this a lot through video and have that interaction time. So starting with images and how we should teach images for vocabulary. You can see here we are going to use a lesson as an example. This comes from Frames for Fluency. Again, it's just examples on how to use something like Frames for Fluency with images and sentence frames. But here you'll see it's a chapter on animals. Apparently, I really like chapters on animals. So here you'll see a lot of different animals. And animals are difficult. So I don't know if you've ever tried to explain an animal to a student without any image. I could say, okay, for example, turtle. So a turtle has a hard shell. It has 4 legs. It's green. It's big. It can swim. A sea turtle. It can walk on land. It's really difficult to explain what a turtle is. And then even in Spanish, you have one word called tortuga, and that's a tortoise and a turtle. So it's so much easier if I just show them a picture and say, this is a turtle. This is a mouse. This is a bird. And so if you use images, especially at those lower levels, and then teach the vocabulary of that, maybe not even with the word, you'll be able to get students that vocabulary that they need because they've probably seen a turtle or a bird or definitely a dog, right? So sometimes it's just easier to start with images, especially at those lower levels, and get that vocabulary to them. For secondary, it's really great to use images. I know sometimes as secondary teachers, and I've felt this, as I've taught throughout the years, I was kind of shy to show them images. Maybe I thought they were babyish or kiddish, but in actuality, I learned over the years that really middle school and high school students feel so much relief when you show them an image because they know what you're talking about. They can always just translate into their own language, but then that's not really learning language through images in English. So if you were to, for example, the turtle, just say, we're going to talk about a turtle today. This is a turtle, and then move on. The students then just feel like that, oh, I know what a turtle is. Okay, I know what we're talking about. For elementary, though, you might talk about how a turtle is a water animal, how it has that shell it could go into, and you might talk a little bit more about what a turtle is because they're kind of learning turtles as well as the word turtle and the vocabulary item. But for secondary, please don't be shy to show pictures. Just show them the image, move on, help them understand what you're referring to. All right. For images with vocabulary, I really feel that there are sometimes groups, multi-level, even if you're just teaching all newcomers, you're going to have groups of students that are maybe a little bit lower, middle, and high, right? So I call this L1, L2, L3, level 1, level 2, level 3, but it doesn't really coincide with a level number like for WIDA or for California ELD or for ELPA 21, right? I just mean like a low group, a medium group, and a high group. So whenever you're teaching vocabulary to groups that have, multi-level, you can always use the images with that low level. Okay, everyone, this is a turtle. And then they just see the turtle. Whenever you show them the picture of the turtle, they say turtle. For the medium or the medium group, the L2 group, you can show them the word turtle. So here, you could teach them to read turtle. So you want them to not just learn a vocabulary word, but how to spell it, how to read it, that kind of function. Then with the third group, I definitely recommend putting in a sentence. So a turtle lives in the water. A turtle can get really, really large, right? So it's really great to introduce vocabulary with sentences with the higher levels, because they're like, oh yeah, I already know what a turtle is. I know how to read that word. And you don't want to lose their interest. So you can challenge them to do more. I never recommend telling students, oh, you're the level 1 group, you're the level 2 group, you're the level 3. You could always just call them red, blue, purple, whatever colors you want to choose, letters, things like that. But definitely make different tasks for your different levels, and that's how you can help multi-level groups stay interactive. All right. So when we teach vocabulary, we always want to practice vocabulary. And like I said, you can look at the Speak to Write webinar that will have a lot of activities for vocabulary. I'm going to talk about 2 of them actually from that webinar shortly. But the very first one, matching. You could always match pictures and words. That's super normal to do. I actually really like categorizing. So even if you're your L1 group and you have pictures for the lowest level, you can have them match, meaning put pictures in the same group. So maybe all the animals that have fur, or all the animals that have 4 legs, or all the animals that are tiny, and then the large animals. And then once you have them do that with pictures, you can then have them explain why they've put those words or picture cards, or however you want to do it, in categories. The same thing for the higher level groups. You're doing words, still categorizing. And then that highest level, they can maybe even put together a paragraph explaining why they would categorize things and then share it orally. So there's a lot you can do with matching, not just the word and the image. With Race for Sentences, that is an actual activity that I've played with my students, and I say play because I love to call them games, learning activities. This activity, Race for Sentences, is really great in person. I'll talk a little bit about how you could do it virtual, but first in person, you would basically pair students off. You would give them a piece of paper. It's generally better to partner them by level so that each student feels like they can interact and give to the conversation. You're going to start with a target word list, so all the vocabulary you just taught. You can use a springboard, a picture for a springboard. We're going to talk a little bit about that later on, called theme pictures. But you can pull up any, Google any image, find an image, use that so they can start making sentences with some kind of springboard for language. So you put them in pairs, and then you would give them time to write sentences. So ideally, you're giving them time to write 1 sentence at a time. The sentence could have 1 vocabulary word, 2, 3, depends on how like that group wants to do it. Because for every word that's used correctly, they would get a point. And in the allotted time, they're trying to get the most points to beat the other teams. So the idea is that they're writing quickly, they're using a lot of the vocabulary, and then teachers can read the sentences, send them back to their desks, and then with this COVID, I don't know how much you want to like have them close and bring them back and forth. So you may just want to give them a 20-minute, 10-minute time limit and say, write as many sentences as you can, and then the teacher can just read them quickly. When you are reading, you are looking for, did they use the word correctly? But secondly, the grammar feedback, because you could really look at the grammar and see as a whole in the class which grammar points they're really struggling with. Those are the ones you could then go to the board and explain as a whole class. But basically, vocabulary and grammatical errors is what you're looking for. If you were to do this virtually, I totally encourage you to do Google Docs, have students share the Google Doc with each other. They just are given a time limit, so they start writing, and then they could turn that Google Doc into you or share it with you. You could then see it, and then again, you are talking about the grammatical errors. So again, it's just a time limit you're giving them. They're making sentences with all the vocabulary words. Whether they're short sentences, compound, complex, does not matter. It's just all up to them on how they want to put it together. Secondly, pick a card is a very simple activity. If you have the vocabulary in stacks already, you just put them out, and students would come up, choose a card, and make a sentence on the spot with that word. Now, if you want to give them a little bit more wait time, you could have them write the sentence on the board. You could have them work with their group to try to get a sentence and then put it up on the board, or orally speak it. But the idea is, as the rounds go, you would have them choose 1 word, then 2 words, and those 2 words they need to put in the same sentence, then 3 words. A lot of my students at the intermediate level were doing 4 to 5 words, and the whole goal was not to have a run together sentence. So they are practicing then vocabulary as well as grammar. but points are awarded for every word used correctly, grammatically, of course. And different ways you can do this is if you had different levels, you could have different stacks of vocab cards, like maybe just the images for the low level, the word for the 2 higher levels. But definitely you want to allow for all this multi-level happening during this activity. All right, so when we talk about vocabulary, we don't want to just see the vocabulary word in one context, especially if we're using images. So that's a picture of a dog, right? But if I just showed them one dog, then dogs can look a lot different. So here you're going to see 2 more dogs. So this is what we actually call a theme picture, but again, you could just find any picture and use it as a springboard or something to talk about. So here you'll see the 2 dogs. You could then say, this is a dog, and here are 2 more dogs. Here is another image where you'll see the dog, and let's talk about the dog. Where is the dog? Maybe the dog is at the vet. It hurt its leg or paw. So you can then see it again in another context. All right. So here are some activities. These actually come out of Frames for Fluency, but again, if you start with sentence frames, you have vocabulary, you can come up with lessons on your own, but this is really about fluency and confidence. So if you can get students to work on sentence frames, there is an automaticity that happens when you speak it so often, when you hear it so often, when you then write it to then speak. So this practice builds fluency and confidence, and it allows for students to then come up with a lot of this on their own later on. So we always have the form. These are going to be nouns, regular, we're talking about plurals, and naming things. So here's the target frame. The blank is here or there. The blank are here or there. So this would be the plural form. So we always want to do it in I do it, we do it, you do it model, and here you'll see the examples. So we are going to now try this. I'm going to bring Emily in to help me with this. So we'll have a little interaction here. So when we do I do it, we do it, you do it model, I do it, I would say the puppy is here. The puppies are there. Theoretically, you know, if there was more than one, the puppies are there. I would have maybe the picture card up and say, this is a puppy, right? So then we do it. I'll bring Emily in and I'll show her a turtle, right? So Emily, let's try it. It's a turtle. I know you can't see the picture, but it's a turtle. All right.
I'm imagining.
Go ahead. The
turtle is here.
Very good. Now imagine there is more than one turtle.
Okay. The turtles are here.
Very good. All right, now you do it, Emily, as a student. Can you please come up with maybe just one more example of an animal and try to fill in the sentence frames?
Sure. The giraffe is there.
Good.
The giraffes are there.
Very good. Thank you, Emily. So in a multi-level classroom, Emily might have a hard time with the oral practice, right? Like the oral part of it. So I might say, okay, you know, why don't you write it down, draw a picture first, you know, give them that wait time, give them that extra help. Whereas somebody at a higher level might be like me. If I was a student, I might say the turtle is here, but the giraffe is there. So I could actually extend the sentence frame and do more with it for a multi-level response. So in your level 1 group, they're doing the simple frame. The level 2 and 3, you could say, I want 7 sentences. I want 10. I want you to use but, and, those types of things. All right, so we're going to try another one. This is going to be adjectives describing qualities with the noun of the nouns. The target sentence frame is the blank is blank. And then you're going to have the words here that you can use, like soft, slippery, colorful, furry, cute. And here are some examples. So Emily, again, I'm going to do it. So the kitten is cute. The rabbits are soft. So you can use some of these words if you want to, if you don't have to. But let's try an animal together. Let's try the panda.
Okay. The panda is furry.
Very good. And then if there are more than one?
The pandas are furry.
Very good. So now you can choose an animal. Go ahead. You do it.
The gerbil is small. The gerbils are small.
Very good. Now, Emily, if you were a higher level student, you could add and, right? Or but. I'm not going to ask you to do it, but I'm just saying that you could do more with the sentence for a multi-level response. Okay. Thank you for your help. All right. So moving on to using images like a larger image, not just a single item as a springboard for language, we are going to talk a little bit about this image here. So we could do something here where we have kitten, mice, white, and tiny as a word bank. I could help my lower levels by giving them a word bank. My higher levels probably no word bank. And then later, I could just tell them to write as many sentences as they can from this. So here you'll see the blank is blank. So I need a singular, right? So not plural. So the kitten is white. And then if for plural, the mice are tiny, okay? So basically that's how I could do this as a springboard for language. I could do the I do it, we do it together, and then the students make a lot of sentences for this image. Okay. And this is what we call a theme picture, but again, you can just find another image anywhere, use target sentence frames to talk about an image. That's pretty much what we're trying to say. All right, now again, multi-level is hugely important. You don't want just a simple sentence for the higher levels. So this might be a frame like this is a blank. So here at the beginner level, literally you're trying to name things. So you could point to the cat and say, what is this? That's right, this is a cat. A baby cat is called a kitten, right there. Point to the dog and say, is this a monkey? Is it a dog? That's right, this is a dog. So raise your hand if you have a dog. So they're interacting a little bit more non-verbally, that's okay. And then we could try, this is a dog, this is a monkey. So very, very simple for the beginning level. However, with the same image, you could do a lot more with the higher levels. So some examples are for early intermediate, you could talk about the store. What kind of store is this? What are the girls doing? So having students describe, use a little bit more descriptive language. What animal is the boy holding? Write a sentence describing the picture. So again, a higher level activity of description, you're going to only have them write a sentence at the early intermediate level. As you move on to something like the intermediate level, what is happening in this picture? So this is a lot more open-ended. They can guess, they're predicting, right? Are the children having fun? Again, predicting, why or why not? Show evidence. These are pretty much what you are thinking about when you're doing higher order thinking skills, as well as, aligning to standards. Write a paragraph now at the intermediate level, telling why the children are not having fun in the pet store, and then you'll have to give evidence. Again, these are all first listening first, to then speak, to then maybe write, to then present it orally. Early advanced, what would happen if the animals were not in cages in the pet store, right? So you would have to guess, hypothesize. Do you think the animals should be in cages? Why or why not? So you're going to get a little bit more of an expository type of response, or a persuasive, right? Write a paragraph telling the best way to keep animals in pet stores. So this is more expository in nature. So as you move up to different levels, you're going to have them do more language, higher order thinking skills, as well as longer responses in speaking and writing and listening, right? All right, here you'll see the advanced. You're going to pretend you're one of the children in the picture and you want to choose an animal from the pet store. What do you need to know about the animal? Make a list of questions, so totally creative, and then do some research and write a report. So again, moving that needle to something even more difficult, all using that same theme picture. All right. To close, I really do want to focus on that you can use sentence frames with listening, speaking. We saw that. Definitely with writing. Obviously, you're listening, speaking to then write. But reading, it's very useful to use sentence frames for reading. So these are literature frames that you can do for prediction, for character study, for setting, for sequencing, first, second, next, last, and details about the main idea. So it is very useful to use sentence frames for literature because we all want to teach reading, right? We definitely want to teach them how to more than just a code. We want to do main idea. We want to do things that students need as far as reading skills. So again, we do have a lot to do with sentence frames. So I hope that you will use the time that you have with them to practice orally, listening and speaking, and then even writing, and bring in some literature and do it all with sentence frames. But again, to review, you are teaching them grammar in context using target vocabulary, sticking it all into a sentence frame. You could use it for intervention. Oh, my students cannot get past tense. I don't understand. Like, I taught them past tense, I swear. And if you've taught, you know this happens and you know exactly what I'm talking about. You feel it in your body and you're like, okay, I'm going to stop everything. We're just going to focus only on past tense. Well, yeah, you could just do activities just on past tense, follow a lot of different themes and vocabulary, and just, help them with that one grammatical form or function. Again, listening and speaking, speak to write, reading the literature frames. But definitely, I want to encourage you during this time of virtual. I know it's difficult. I'm not saying it's easy. You have to teach a totally different way and you had to learn it quickly. But use that time to see if you can, maybe your students show up. They're not on video, but they're at least responding. Call their name, give them something simple that they can respond to and feel very successful. And then they'll want to ask, they'll want to interact a little bit more and more. So maximize that virtual time with sentence frames. We do have frames for fluency, which is everything I was pretty much talking about. It comes with 2 very easy to use teacher guides. Those activities that you saw were taken from it. The sentence frames are already made for you during this virtual time. Type out sentence frames on a slide. These theme pictures, you can show them. They're digital in nature, but again, use it as a springboard for language, as well as the word and picture cards for vocabulary. We also have hands-on English that uses sentence frames, the word and picture cards. This is specifically for K1-2 for early beginners. There is a teacher's e-port. This is one of our newest programs. So teachers can be on the e-port, project things onto the screen, project the sentence frames, the slides, the vocabulary, those very big books that you can barely hold. They can be projected onto the screen. This is a full-on curriculum with printables, assessment. It's a really great, super easy to use teacher guides to follow. So I really encourage you, if you have those younger students, this is a great series. Also, if you missed our webinar about young learners, it was featuring hands-on English. English maths are part of hands-on English. They are really to do vocabulary as well as conversation, to then speak to write. Okay. Carousel of ideas, frames is part of that. The theme pictures are part of that. The word and picture cards. What you get additionally are resource books with a lot of printables or things that you can project digitally. But the idea really is it's a well-rounded curriculum. It has everything with reading, writing, listening, and speaking. And then it has some content area. So content to do English. And then it has a very easy to use teacher guide, very scripted. Takes you through everything. It includes literature as well. Also our Go English charts that are really all about, when to teach the different grammar forms and functions according to what level. Champion of Ideas, secondary, really great. We also have a digital platform so teachers and students can be on it digitally. Very robust in rigor, reading, writing, listening, and speaking, all to teach English language acquisition. And not going to call it a reading program. Reading is part of it. You're going to have listening, speaking, and as well as a lot of oral practice. There's a teacher's guide with a lot of great activities that you can go that hold the lessons together. And it really just is so great for the middle school and high schools, available on paper, but as well as digital. We also do language proficiency assessments in English as well as Spanish. It's great for placement, progress monitoring, great individual student diagnostic reports to help inform instruction. So you can then know, oh, you need to work on past tense. You need to work on plurals with this student. We also have the preschool test, so preschool, pre-K. We have our new early childhood assessment and educación preescolar, so we have English and Spanish. We also have our existing pre-IPT, again, really great to place students, find out how to meet their needs. All right, so we are here for you. We are wanting to help you. I know these times are hard, difficult, but also fun to learn new things. So please contact us. My information is right here if you just want to chat. You want to talk about some of our materials, or you already have our existing materials, how do I make it different for my classroom? We are here for you. If you enjoyed this Lunch and Learn, the series is actually 2, so we were trying to get the Eastern and the Pacific time lunchtime. So if you liked it, please pass the word along to try to come to our one next Friday. At 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 Eastern. It's going to be a different lesson, but the same strategies, the same ideas. So if you saw today's, you don't really need to come to the other one, but definitely spread the word. It will be recorded. And I have left almost no time for questions and answers. Sorry, Emily, but I'm gonna turn it over to you.
That's okay. No, that was great. Thanks for sharing those activities and examples. And I think folks can walk away and start using those materials right away on Monday, bright and early. But let's take a couple of the questions that came in. I know we're right at our time, but we'll get a couple in. So for beginners who are practicing a simple sentence like the turtle is here, how do kids understand the directions such as now imagine there is more than one?
Right. So when the turtle is here, there's one. You could actually put like different pictures of turtles and match them together. Okay, so this is one turtle. This is two turtles. Two turtles. These are two turtles. So I might actually use more images to help understand that. Or if you had physical turtles, like toys, you could definitely do that. But yeah, now imagine more than one is a pretty difficult response or something for them to understand. So I might actually use manipulatives or more pictures.
Yeah, that's a good idea. What if a student made a mistake? How would you address it as they were speaking?
Yeah, I would just, like I was helping Emily, the turtle. Okay, let's try it again. The turtle is here, and give them more help, and say, okay, you can try it by yourself again. Really not even address that it was a mistake. Just kind of say it again and have them repeat it.
Yeah, that repetition is so important.
Mhm.
A question about the Ballard and Time materials. Do you have any content that's specific to math?
We have a little bit of math in Champion of Ideas and a little bit in Carousel, but again, it's all content to teach English language acquisition. So it's not to replace a math course for or ELD math course. So all of it's just to teach English language development.
Right, in
Yeah,
support of those other subjects. Yeah.
correct.
So,
Oh,
well,
sorry,
excellent.
depends on English.
Another.
So
Oh,
our
go ahead.
K1, there is a math part. Sorry about that. Yeah.
Oh, no, that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. um, I am going to go ahead and wrap up, but actually, a couple people have asked about the other webinars that you referenced, and we are going to include a link to those in the email that you get tomorrow, so you can get to those. If you can't wait for that email, you can also go to the Ballard and Ty website, and there is a link to webinars, and you'll be able to access all of the ones that Brenda mentioned. But again, we'll send you a link to that page. Oh, aren't you smart, Brenda? Navigating right there. So under services, if you go there, you'll be able to see the full list of the webinars that are available and access them. So you can hop over there right now or wait for the link tomorrow. We'll also be sending you the recording of this webinar tomorrow as well. And that email will include your certificate of attendance. Be sure to scroll to the very bottom of the email, click on the big orange button that says My Certificate, and you'll download the PDF of it. So thanks everybody for joining us today. Again, we are going to be back next Friday at 12 o'clock Eastern. So if you want to join or you've got colleagues who might be interested in this, feel free to pass along the link to register. That'll be in that email tomorrow. And we hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend or the start of your weekend. We're not at the weekend quite yet. So thanks for being here, Brenda, and sharing all this information. Have a great afternoon,
Thank you.
everybody.
Bye, everyone.